So we talked about snackables, the short, quick, easy to digest info and entertainment videos. Anybody have any questions or talking points you starting to cuento?
So a lot of these, videos, they're short and they're on these social media things. Who's authorizing, the release of these things? Like, I guess my point is, I have plenty of ideas, but can I just take those ideas and run with them, or how high up the chain do I have to go in order to release it? And because I'm sure you've got a lot of experience, so who do you have to talk to in order to authorize stuff, and at what level? Because I'm sure some stuff you can just release, then some stuff you have to get.
Yeah, it's case by case. So it's dependent on your rank, because as public affairs, airmen, sailors, Marines, soldiers, we have that release authority to some extent. Okay, we're public affairs. That's part of what we do. Okay, so we get to make that call sometimes. But it depends on the topic. If it's something that could possibly have service-wide impact, there's going to be a lot of people that want to see that and have their finger in that pudding before it goes out. So it's case by case. But that's where kind of planning and coordination come into hand. Keeping your chain of command informed about what ideas you have. Never want to blindside people with this kind of stuff. I've been there, I've done it. It's not pretty when it happens. Sometimes it's unavoidable too, because you could have 20 people look at something and it'd be completely harmless in everybody's eyes, and then some random 1-star somewhere sees it and takes it completely wrong. Try a 4-star, why not? Yeah. You have to expect that stuff sometimes. True story, yeah. 4 stars, the president. Yeah, the Commandant. All right, so I'll give you a recent example. I did a video, well, I showed it to you guys before. We'll talk about it again soon. But it was a video about one of our students who missed graduation because she was sick, and we went and visited her. Yeah, I'm going to show that one again to you guys. But so everybody saw it. She was cool with it, and we released it. Well, the chief of Army Public Affairs, Marine Public Affairs, 1-star general, I believe, saw it and took issue with it, and the MARDET ended up chewing out one of our guys that had nothing to do with it just because he wears a Marine uniform, and I felt really bad. He was in the video, but it was totally on me. Sergeant Cifuentes took the. He thought it was like a HIPAA violation, that we would unnecessarily worry her family or something because they thought she was dying or whatever, and I was like.
It's actually training command for the Marine Corps. The head of training command, the sergeant major of training command saw it, contacted head of public affairs, and then it roundabout came back, and then
She was on the phone with her mother during the filming of this. So
it was
she put it on speaker. We all got to say hi.
Was that part of the argument?
No, it's just people will see something and then just assume the absolute worst. Like, oh, these guys have no idea what they're doing and totally screwed the pooch.
Now, far be it from me, but maybe just as an outsider looking in, I would imagine that because maybe it was someone sick, they didn't want to see that. They didn't want that visual.
I mean, it's a rational thought to occur to you, but hey, maybe call and ask instead of
instead of
burning the place to the ground over it. It's like, can you maybe at least assume, give us some benefit of the doubt?
It was a great video. I mean, it was.
I didn't.
No, it never got into specifics of what the procedure was. Just she missed graduation because she had surgery.
It's even on her social, on her.
People that are sick usually don't smile.
It's fine.
They have some fun.
When I was on the ship in Japan, Intel started yelling at us because they thought we were putting coordinates on the photos that we were posting.
Oh, wow.
And
Was it your
parent?
parent?
The Viren. Do you think Intel would know what a coordinate was?
It's a date.
Are you encoding this for ISIS? Yes, you got me. Yeah, I know.
I feel really horrible, but on graduation day, I came in late and I was looking for somewhere to sit. And obviously I knew I could sit in the front, but when I saw her picture there, I was like, oh God. And I thought the worst until,
The photo was in color?
Hey.
Yeah, originally I printed it out in black and white. They're like, it looks like she's dead, Sergeant Curry. That's a good point.
I was so afraid.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's how stressful.
Okay, so social media it's fraught with those little landmines, right? You have to be careful. Things like that, it happens. You have to. Yeah. So you know you don't want to intentionally or like just completely with ignorance do something dumb. But if you have the best of intentions, I think people are familiar enough now with social media to realize like, okay, that's not what they meant, or you know, those kinds of things. And they typically blow over pretty quick.
Oh, sorry, Bart.
Well, just by watching some of these videos, it reminded me of earlier in the summer with the movie Independence Day and how the Army just straight up hijacked their commercials.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, I don't remember that. Yeah.
Well, it was an actual Independence Day commercial for the movie, but the U.S. Army straight up like inserted their message.
I think I remember seeing that during like
future
sporting
soldiers,
events.
you know, fighting against, you know, blah blah blah, join the U.S. Army.
Yeah, the recruiting commands will do that kind of stuff all the time.
So you can fight the aliens.
It's called repurposing.
Right. But those are usually done like with coordination. Like they didn't just strip it and say like join the army, Independence Day, like go fight aliens. Like usually there's some back and forth with the producers because.
Well, and movies like that often have had to coordinate with the Army already.
Because they're using the Army's equipment as props a lot of the time. So it's mutually beneficial, those kinds of relationships. And we have entire offices, like liaisons that are in Hollywood, that's what they do. It's a public affairs job where you get to coordinate with like movie producers.
And I have to ask,
Yep.
if we're involved with these movies that use military equipment and stuff, why are they still getting the uniforms wrong in these movies?
It's on purpose.
It's on purpose, yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes.
People who are overseas who watch that video and want to mimic and pretend and wear our uniform will get it wrong.
That
That's
makes
one of the
sense.
reasons
Okay.
we harp on our uniform so much, is so you can identify those discrepancies.
That makes sense.
That's
Okay.
like one of the very old school espionage type.
Right, it's been around forever. Like they're not allowed to have a proper ribbon rack.
Okay.
So we talked about snackable content. That's kind of a specific term for a specific type of video or content on the web. It doesn't have to just be video. Like we talked about, it could be GIFs, it could be memes. GIF is the pronunciation. I don't care what anybody says. It's not GIF. You shut your mouth. It's GIF. All right, let's not start that. I know I started it, but let's end it. All right. So, just because you're Jeff, whatever GIF. All right, let's go. So now we're going to talk about just in general, like good practices, what to do, what not to do for web video, okay? What not to do. VOs, VOSATs, like traditional newscast packaging of content is not really what you want to do for the web. You want to structure videos in a way that works on these mobile devices, okay? All right. So this is another example of Airman Magazine. They did a story, and this you guys might get a kick out of this because this is like one of our forefathers. You know, I love the history of what we do. This is one of the dudes, Air Force combat cameraman from World War II on. And so they did like a full-on like feature piece for the magazine, but they also wanted to, like on social media, drive people to that. So they made a more condensed kind of teaser video for that article. So I'll show you the teaser and then I'll show you the actual full length, okay?
The war to end all wars had ended some 20 years before in November of 1918. It was on these missions that a young lanky man from eastern Nebraska
It's not hard to jump out of a flaming airplane, I'll tell you. Not hard. Everything's a success as long as you're alive.
You guys kind of want to know what that guy's story is
I
now?
want to watch it.
Right, yeah, that's like engaging. It's like, oh, yeah, tell me more.
Please. So just kind of tease it a little bit. So yeah, there was audio from his soundbite in there, but did you notice what else accompanied that audio? Yeah. Subtitles, captions, right. Great music choice that they use, but most people, what was the example, MC1, why not to use, or why not to, or you have the text in it, yeah. Go ahead, tell them.
If you're, like, especially out in public, if you're in the bathroom doing your thing and you're scrolling, you know, just on the toilet for a while, you don't want people next to you.
Necessarily hear it. Yeah, so you're not going to click on those because the person in the stall next to you might hear it, you know. So you want to watch it, but you still want to get all the info That's why we caption. So never forget to caption everything.
It used to be like why we see a lot of those videos now with the black bar on the bottom so that there's space for the text.
Meme style, yeah.
That's called baking in the text, which that happened because that was pretty much the only options that were available, especially for Facebook. But now the tools have been updated and you don't have to bake it in. You could, if you use the available tools on say Facebook or YouTube, it makes it something you can turn on. It will automatically come up when the sound is not playing, but when you play the sound, you can have it go away so that it's not interrupting your.
Yeah. It's a caption file. It's like a separate file that you upload with the video, and it marries up the text with the timing of the video.
But sometimes you want to bake it in.
Yeah. Yeah, it just depends. So, all right. So that was the teaser.
So here's the full story. This is what people will then click to based on that little teaser.
It's not hard to jump out of a flaming airplane, I'll tell you. Not hard.
The war to end all wars had ended some 20 years before in November of 1918. It was on these missions that a young lanky man from eastern Nebraska would begin to make his mark on the future. It was on these missions into Hell's Half Acre that this man would become a legend. This is the story of the man who made combat camera. This is the story of Doug Morrell.
They call me the legend because I went from the beginning of the Air Force all the way through World War II. I was in Korea, Vietnam, Panama, Grenada. I've been through so many near disasters. Every time an airplane crashed, well, you'd be surprised how many cameras crashed with it. I love the camera, but I think the camera's getting old and wrinkled. Story's the only thing. It will always be important, even with the change of equipment, the change of presentation and everything. Will always be changing all the time. But it's not that, it's the story we're telling. I'm 96 years old, and I don't worry about anything. Everything's a success as long as you're alive. I hate to put an end to anything, but there's got to be one. It's just like the film itself, you know, film or tape or image, down to an image now.
So YouTube will auto-generate captions for you based on the audio track, and they're about 60% accurate. If you're lucky, especially if somebody. Yeah.
I wish more people thought to do that.
Yeah. So some of the differences. Okay, so the first one was like geared towards like Facebook and Instagram, something that would autoplay, get the attention. But the purpose is to push them to the full piece, which either lives as a standalone on YouTube or is inside of their Airman Magazine full production, which ideally is where they want to drive their audience, is to get that full experience of the magazine. Because there's like 20 different articles in it, lots of pictures. It's a lot more than just that one story. But they'll do like some sort of version of this for each of the multimedias that is in that issue, okay? So to generate more interest. But I think it's pretty cool the way they did that with just repackaging. So like if you do a package, you go out and shoot a lot of B-roll and interviews, think about a way that you can kind of come up with a teaser for it, okay? So you guys shot Rock Band, okay? Think of like the best shots that you have, and how would you package that together in like 15 seconds to a minute to maybe tell the story of what's going on there without actually writing and voicing a script for it, okay? Just a B-roll package with text on it that gives like the full story, okay? That's what we're talking about for social media and what really works, okay? So this is another example, I believe, of what I was just talking about. Taking the B-roll, giving all the information that would be in a package or a VOSOD or something like that, but doing it without any actual talking heads or your actual voice. I don't love the font that they use for this. I think it's kind of weak, but this is the idea that I kind of want you guys to see, because you see it all the time on your social media feeds. You know what this is. Now be thinking about how you can improve upon it, or at least emulate it, make something like this. I think it's pretty cool. What do you guys think about that? Pretty neat, right? Just B-roll. Just stuff that they shot. They got the message out there. Do you think that's more impactful than maybe having like the lieutenant colonel that was flying the helicopter talking about it?
Well, I kind of like in the video they kept like they had like the two major angles, but they kind of coincided like almost like perfectly.
Yeah, you
so,
see
like,
from the deck.
You just see them like kind of like almost that interaction. Okay.
Yeah,
we'll see you later.
Sorry, Quendo.
So, how do you get people drawn to look at these videos? Like, you can come up with a 30-second or 15-second teaser or clip, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get clicks or is there a way to market it, or do you have any particular ways to pitch it? Because like, I've personally worked on some stuff that I think looks great, but never got any clicks.
So one way is to tag a lot of like the other organizations that are involved with that, you know, to let them know that that's available. So like teamed up with, you know, at Army National Guard to, you know, this is in the post. You bake it into them so they know that they've been tagged in something, and they'll be like, oh, this is cool, and then they'll share it with their audience, hopefully. But ideally what you want to do is coordinate with them beforehand. Call them the day before you release and be like, hey, I've got this great piece. Maybe send them a private link to the video. Be like, this is what we're going to post. This is how we're going to structure it. We'd love it if you'd share it with your audience too. And that's how you kind of, it's all about collaboration and teamwork and building up that audience. In terms of getting them to click, I mean, the only thing you can do is just get more eyeballs on it, really. I mean, I don't know the magic formula for like forcing people to be like, this is amazing, and automatically clicking on it.
I mean, when you're trying to build up your initial audience, it's anything and everything you can do to get the initial group of people going. You want to hit up your friends, make sure like everyone in your shop who's friends with, like, make sure all of them are going in there and giving it the attention it needs in this initial phases. One technique I'm using right now to actually help my church's Facebook page go do a little better is I've got a group of people that have agreed to click the see this first. So you can go on a page. It's something you already liked, but you have to click again after you like it and say, see these things first. This is priority for me. And so now I've got a group of people that I know they're going to see it first on their feeds, and so now they're more likely to engage. When they engage, that increases the reach. So you just have to get that group of users engaged initially.
Oh yeah, one thing I was gonna say is that you'd be surprised like how many people are already interested in this kind of stuff. When I started working on an aircraft carrier, I was very shocked when I saw our Truman page, how many people actually follow and actually like to look at that stuff. I was on a helicopter taking photos of the aircraft carrier, not video, but just pictures, and a lot of people liked it. That surprised me. there's a huge audience of people that are on those Facebook pages already. So it's not like monumentous that big.
I just have like 2 points to that. So the first thing is being intentional and consistent with your content. You had talked about like a unit that only had like 2 Facebook posts at all, right? Like ever? Like they have this and they're just not using it. Well, of course nobody's gonna see their stuff because it's not showing up in their feed. The way to show up in people's feeds is to be consistently posting, okay? So you have to have a plan. You have to be intentional about this stuff. Don't let it come to you and be like, oh, this will be cool. Like you have to be thinking ahead of time where this stuff is gonna show up, when it's gonna show up, and how you wanna market it, okay? So be consistent and intentional with your content. Second of all, yeah, producing the video, you're not even halfway done yet, okay? You post it, you're maybe halfway done. Now you have to market it, okay? And a lot of that is on you. If you want people to see your stuff, you gotta send it out. You gotta be your own best advocate, right? I had a video that I did several years ago, but it was one of like my most viewed videos. It was about the restoration of the Memphis Belle, which is, I'll show you guys that one later. It's a really good like just example of like storytelling and things like that. But I wanted people to see it. I was proud of it, you know, for selfish reasons, but also I thought it was a good story. I thought it told the Air Force story well. So I just straight up started, you know, sending it out to places that I thought might have a shared interest. Not all of them were strictly like in the military, okay? The biggest advocate that I found for that piece was a group that was interested in just legacy World War II aircraft called, and the name totally escapes me right now, the Warbirds. Warbirds was one of them. Oh, it's like right on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember. Anyways, they've got 300-something thousand followers. And I just sent it to them as a private message. As like, hey, I'm in the Air Force, I produced this piece, I think your audience might love it. They shared it and I had 1 million views within a week on that video because all their friends shared it. Okay, think about the population of America, 300-something million people, right? There are at least 1 million people in our country that love anything, okay? The internet is a weird, quirky, strange place, but there's these niches, however you say that word, these pockets of people that have access because of the internet to that one special thing that they like. So don't be afraid to look for these groups on Facebook and other places that are geared towards that specific interest and sharing it with them because they will then do the work for you sometimes. It's not a guarantee, but I mean, that was just one example of like super successful marketing that I had just by sending it to them, by thinking outside the box, like, okay, maybe not just the Air Force, but who else? And like plane geeks love planes and they will share and comment and love and join your page because they know that you're intentionally providing that content consistently.
The idea of you just posting it and expecting everyone to just come over to you and see
it's
just
not,
a bit arrogant. To be honest.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
To piggyback off of Master Sergeant here, not only do you want to recognize the communities, but you also want to recognize what conversations they're having, right? So how do you recognize that? What are the hashtags? What conversations do they have? Not only do you want to tag, but you want to also hashtag, and then hashtag that video. So then it starts popping up in other people's conversations, like, oh, cool video. Then they start sharing it, and before you know it, you get 1 million views.
Does everybody know how hashtags work? Is that okay? Just want to take that question. Yes, sir. Dumpies. Oh.
Yeah. Beyond just like views and reposts, is there any other way that I guess the Defense Department, the branches would quantify the return of investment on these kind of things? I know it's hard to believe, but there's a woman who actually wants to marry me. My fiance works for a third party, kind of an intermediary between brands and Instagram, and basically she connects these brands with social influencers on Instagram because some of these brands are trying to figure out this whole new world, and their number one question is, well, what's the return on investment? She says that's the hardest thing, the hardest question to answer, because nobody's really figured out kind of the right algorithm to come up with that. And I was just wondering, does the Defense Department or Army specific branches have kind of something they're looking for beyond just reposts and views?
Largely, no. I think we're in the same boat as everybody else. The best way I can think of to do that is to have a goal in mind before you even pick up the camera. Like, what is the action you want them to take? And that's with any kind of communication, right? Like, I'm up here with the goal of hopefully you guys learning something, right? How do I measure that? By you exercising, doing that. Now, this is a controlled environment where I can make you do what I want you to do, but in social media, yeah, you want them to at least like visit the page. So if your whole intent is just to have them like read the story, then yeah, you can just measure click-throughs. Okay, so like they watch the video, and you have the analytic that then shows that our page views went up directly correlated to this particular video. Okay, so that's like one metric you can use. You had another one about the Marines with marketing their innovation survey. You want to share that?
Right. So that's a unique situation. This example is a unique situation, but it's an example of how you can adapt to the situation where you have more specific data. So the goal of this campaign that the Marine Corps social media did was to solicit input and ideas. They wanted to broaden the scope. They wanted to crowdsource ideas for the Marine Corps, essentially. So they had tried to do this before, kind of old school methods, just kind of putting out email survey, but very little results. And they just wanted to go bigger. And so they did this campaign that and it was a really good social media video with a general inviting all Marines to get involved with this, and they even had rewards if an idea gets implemented. And so anyways, their measurement, their goal was ideas, and they had a form, and they could measure the actual idea submissions.
And it was something they did every year. Like around this time, they would introduce the innovation program. So yeah, they knew what they got last year and subsequent year or previous years, and basically they were just trying to beat that. And then they could at least correlate, like, hey, this social media campaign actually did have an impact because we got so many more than last year, which was just a Marine Corps-wide email, which I think was really all it was, you know. And so by throwing this social media campaign in there, they were able to say, hey, look, we had 20% more submissions, and it's pretty safe to say it was because of how successful this video was in getting the word out. So you have to kind of bake in your measurables into your campaign before you really start producing.
But understanding baselines can help you too. So sometimes you have to make these intuitive leaps on analytics. So you mentioned visits to the page, visits to an article.
Click-throughs, yeah.
So you can look at similar articles that have gone out, and then look at the baseline norm. And then if you do something different, you can make that educated leap or educated guess that this spike was that being successful. You can't know, there could be a fluke reason, but you can make those kind of educated guesses that it was due.
And we will, throughout the class, talk more about how to market, how to campaign, all that stuff. We only got about 15 more minutes. So I do want to get through the rest of these examples so that you guys have a good idea of what you can do with your own footage that you shot later today. So this next one, okay, you saw this one already. But again, it's a self-contained, no narration. It just happened, and I packaged it this way, and it was super successful.
Get better soon so you can go kick out Japan.
That's what I was like. You know, it's like.
Congratulations on everything that you've accomplished, over the last few months. You were an outstanding student, you had a great attitude, and it was awesome to have you in class. So, here you go.
All right, and that, yeah, I just click on ignore for now, I guess. Yeah, so this was an idea that I had wanted, not this particular subject matter, but the DINFOS Cares hashtag was something that I wanted us to, at DINFOS, have as a campaign, just an ongoing, as we did things like, we're always volunteering, like Habitat for Humanity or, things like that. We do blood drives. Actually generating, content based on those things, so they're not, it helps to advertise the schoolhouse, shows us as, just people, and those kind of things resonate with people, caring, helping. This was, again, like based on just overall numbers for DINFOS, which doesn't have like a huge social media following. All right, gotta improve, start, and flies, leave. Get out of here. All right. This was by far the most successful post we've had all year. Okay, I didn't really do a lot of marketing on it. I think I tagged Fort Meade, and I shared it in a lot of public affairs websites. There's tons of like internal PA military groups that you should join and be a part of, because it's really good to get feedback, to bounce ideas, to see what everybody else is doing, and to share your stuff. And I shared it with them because I wanted ideas about like what.
We have 6 or 7 networks.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I wanted to like, hey, this is what I'm doing at DINFOS. I think that this DINFOS Cares hashtag is something that's cool. This was our first one. What do you guys think? I just wanted to kind of get feedback, but family members and stuff. Stuff like this, the human interest element of it, really resonates with people. So be looking for that kind of stuff.
It's not an invitation for you to go get your event appendix taken out, though.
Yeah. No. Please. Yeah. Right. That's the only one I'm going to do. If anybody gets sick, I don't care. It's been done. All right. Next. Okay, so this is another one I did. I think it's the last example I have. So this one's a little bit longer, okay? It doesn't have captioning in it, and it should, so that's my bad. But it's another example of storytelling for the web. It's not your typical package. Yes, ma'am.
How many views did the last video get?
30, wait, hold on. Something like 30,000, I think, yeah. Which, I mean, DINFOS is usually in the hundreds of views. So to be in the tens of thousands is really good for us. Yeah. Another thing too, just totally off topic, but our stuff is public domain, and it's so easy to get things from people and then share them as your own. A lot of my videos, like I have no idea how many videos or how many views they have, because other channels have taken them and shared them as their own, and I don't get those analytics. And I may not even know they have done that. Like sometimes I'll just Google myself because I'm bored, and I'll see like a video I did that was on another YouTube channel. It's got like hundreds of thousands of views. I'm like, oh, sweet. But I mean, it doesn't do anything for me and my audience, but it's kind of cool to see where your stuff goes. So just an aside. So yeah, I mean, if another network had picked up that video and actually stripped it from our channel and uploaded it to their page, I would have no idea. So as a courtesy to your fellow producers and things like that, click share instead of just downloading their stuff and re-uploading it for the numbers. That's just kind of a pet peeve, I think, among most social media marketing people, that they get their content out there, but they have no idea where it's going, and none of it ties back to them. So share, don't steal, if possible. Okay, so this last one, it's about a class that they teach. It's the Public Affairs Qualification course, and they wanted a video that kind of showed some of the new training that they have. They wanted it to be, geared towards social media in an engaging way. So there's a lot of talking heads in this one, but I think for the environment, like it wasn't really like that exciting. Okay, and I tried to make it that way, using music, using editing, but the text is what really I think helps make it stand out. It's not just your typical like lower thirds. It's like animated. It's you'll see.
The military is an inherently dangerous profession, and as a result, military communicators need to know how to respond in crisis.
The instructors in the Public Affairs Leadership Department are committed to creating the most relevant, realistic training scenarios. We want our students to be able to succeed as soon as they get out to their units.
As soon as you're done, come find me, and then let's do a press conference on that.
Okay. Crisis communication, it overwhelms your system.
I'm not taking any questions.
So having the scenario just prepares you to be overwhelmed and how important it is to get information out in a timely manner.
We'll not be taking any questions at this time.
The real world scenario, I mean, it could very well happen on any base at any time.
First thing that our students have to do is be able to gather and verify information from a multitude of sources.
This is what we know, this is what we don't know, and we don't want to release anything that we didn't have confirmed.
And then they have to figure out how they're going to get that information out to their key audiences.
Coordinating with the Joint Information Center for that valuable information, trying to assess what can we release, what can we not release, how can we best reach our intended audiences, what kind of messages should we put out there.
It was stressful,
but just the right amount of stress. You train as you fight, and so you build that stress in so that way when the real stress happens, you already know how to react to it.
Here at this course, I learned social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and these are the places where the media go for information, so we have to be able to use them, we have to be able to communicate in those mediums.
It's invaluable. If you don't know anything about PA, you'll come out of here really close to an expert.
The most valuable part for me was giving the press conference.
The press conference exercise was a rush.
I had never done a media interview before this. The role players were actual faculty here at the Defense Information School.
And the pressure is on from the first minute to the 4th hour.
With the cameras and the lights, reporters firing questions at you, that's as realistic as it can get.
They were tough, they wanted answers, and they made us really stay on our feet and stay on top of our messages and ensure that we were getting the word out that we wanted to get out.
It's definitely a great way to test your mettle.
So they have this this scenario. There's an active shooter where they basically just come in one day while they're in the middle of class and drop this scenario on them to see how they respond. And then the whole day basically unfolds as if there had been an active shooter on base. How do you as public affairs communicate with your audience, with your base, with the external media? All that stuff is baked in. So a couple things about this. If you ran this through a DINFOS grade sheet, I'd fail, right? You got shaky video, you got pop-ins, jump cuts, all that awesome stuff that we hit you guys for. Different things work in different stories. We want you to know the rules so that you can break them effectively. Was anybody super distracted or annoyed by the shakiness of the video in that? Did it fit the mood based on kind of the urgency and chaos that I was trying to express? Music helped out? Right. So now had it just been like shaky cell phone footage of somebody up there delivering a press conference, yeah, that's ridiculous. You don't want that. You want something on a tripod, okay? The pop-ins. I usually like to do my interviews with 2 cameras so I can cut back and forth with the edits. But this I shot in 1080p and edited at 720 so that I wouldn't, it's a smaller box so I can just jump in on it. I'm not losing any resolution. It looks horrible because I used one of those third-party YouTube downloaders to get this into my, it was actually in HD. It looks a lot better. But those pop-ins kind of work because they're on the beat and that's jumping in on a really important part of each soundbite and forcing you to lean forward in your chair, you know what I mean? These are editing techniques that obviously you develop over time. We don't necessarily teach them here because we want you to really grasp and understand and focus on the basics and the fundamentals so that when you go beyond them, you're doing it for a reason and not because you weren't taught what looks professional and what works.
Yes. Yeah, I noticed on the helicopter one, how the beat would drop as soon as something really interesting would happen, and it kind of pulled you in even more, even though it's just a bunch of B-roll.
Exactly. And so yeah, I mean, if you were just doing your typical DINFO style video on what PAQC is, this could have been super boring. It's just a classroom environment. I guarantee you, it was not that cool being there. They were just standing around for almost the whole day. But yeah, adding a little bit of that controlled movement to your shots gives that sense of urgency, that little bit of chaos, and music definitely helps. I included as much nat sound as I could. There were a couple of parts where the Master Sergeant was writing on the whiteboard and I caught that little interaction. Helps to bring you into the environment as well. So use those techniques. I mean, keep using those, but again, still we want you to really focus on using your tripod, making sure everything's in focus, and proper edits so you're not throwing people off. But once you really have a firm grasp on what works in the edit, how to properly sequence things, then for effect, when the time and situation allows for it, you can kind of break some of those rules, okay? So you're not quite ready for that yet, but you'll get there soon, I guarantee it, okay? So just keep that stuff in mind. Any other thoughts, comments, questions about today's stuff?
How old is that video?
3 months. Not that old. I did it this year. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, they loved it. They were really happy with it. They weren't expecting something like that. So it was good for us and it was bad for us because now I get an email a week about, hey, can you do that? I'm still a teacher, unless you want to change my position here. So today you are going to create a snackable video and a self-contained social media video based on what you've shot this week. Okay, so when you're at lunch, maybe be thinking about, what was my story? What was the story? Rock band. It was about what? Okay. Great. So think of ways that with your B-roll, with the shots that you have, how are you going to tell that story in the style that we've looked at today? Either, so one is going to be 15 seconds or less, and the other one's going to be basically a minute or less. The 15-second or less one will be just to kind of generate interest in what happened, almost like a teaser, for the full story, or to find out how you can get this at your unit, because it was like something that they did just as their unit, right? Click here to find out more. Yes, ma'am.
So I noticed in a lot of these that it would jump from one image to another, one setting to another. Are we going to be allowed to do that in this, or are we still expected to follow the 180 rule, 30-30, all of that?
We've never done this before, so I want to see what you guys can do. I want to see how you interpret this lesson today. Yeah, this is not a graded exercise, okay? This does not leave this classroom either, so nobody's done this yet. Probably should hit stop now on the record, but what do you think, Mr. LeCap? I mean, yeah, we're still looking to make sure that you're demonstrating the editing fundamentals that we're teaching you, but
We're gonna actually all watch it later and critique it.
Oh, nice.
But honestly, the real only criteria is if you can make a story about service members playing Rock Band interesting, then that's like a thumbs up.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
It's
Yeah.
already interesting.
So it's Fun Friday.
Yeah. You're not going to be voicing a script or anything like that. Your script is your text. You first.
Can we get our viewers back out and film and do interviews and stuff like that? Maybe for the longer portions, we can do
Like a soundbite?
What did you think of that exercise, or the Rock Band being brought to Dinfos or being brought to Fort Worth?
Is it supposed to be silent with captions?
It doesn't have to be, but you're going to have to caption all that stuff if you use it. But if I don't necessarily have a problem with it. If you think you can get it done.
My advice is to stay. I don't.
Yeah.
There's no requirement, but my advice is to stay away from that for time.
I'm going to tell you how to do an interview yet with video.
Yeah.
But also, speaking of time, you'd think that sweet, this could be easy. There's no rules. The shackles are off. But what can happen is that it will be a time killer for many of you, because you can go here and you can go here to do this or this. I can use this effect, and you're going to realize that suddenly, oh crap, I obsessed over this one thing, and now it's due.
So what do you want to do? You want to have a shot sheet first, maybe, for each one? All right. So here's the deal. When you guys come back from lunch, create a shot sheet for each one, the 15-second and the longer version. Okay, so that we kind of at least know what you plan on doing. And then from there, you have all the footage on your machine, so you can just go to that. If you really want to incorporate other elements, you can. But we want these all done by.
Well, if you do them by 2:30, we'd have time to review and everything.
Really?
End of day
Okay.
stuff.
All right, so 14:30. So you'll have basically 2 hours to do. All right. It's not a lot of time.
Yep.
Will we be able to use music?
Yes. Use music.
From the music library on your computer.
Right.
On our computers, we have music libraries?
I'm willing. I will also, if you want to log in over here, I can give you access to some production music online too.
Yep.